So now, without further ado, let me hand it over to Dr. Saverio Krätli. He is on the Commission of Nomadic Peoples, the International Union of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences. He's the editor of the Nomadic Peoples Journal, and I know him through the Pastoralism and Climate Change Working Group and within the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. So, Dr. Krätli, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope can you confirm you see my screen? Yes,
yes,
great.
I confirm it is streaming.
Perfect. So, hello everybody. Today I would like to talk about pastoralism as a model of sustainable climate adaptation and why we may have more to learn from it than it is usually recognized. Pastoralism tries for centuries, as you have heard, in fact millennia, and on all continents except Antarctica, making use of some of the most dynamic environments like savanna, tundra, mountains, where climate variability is high and drives vegetation growth in often unpredictable patterns. So from the point of view of modernization and development, these vagaries of climate, this variability, have been seen mainly as a problem to overcome. Industrial agriculture has been organized on the principle of separating nature from production, nature from the uncertainty of natural conditions. Yeah, and instead of organizing, instead of introducing stability and control, pastoral systems took a different path. They thrived through ecological integration, working with nature, benefiting from climate variability while managing its risks. As we will see, pastoralism is powered by variability, a bit like a sailing boat is powered by winds, to use a metaphor. That is why pastoralism matters precisely in our time of climate change, where climate variability has become the new normal also outside the rangelands. When pastoral systems are allowed to operate according to their own logic, their agroecological value is evident. The central strategy of pastoralism ecological integration is mobility, as we have heard. It is the combination of climate variability and herd mobility that opens up grazing opportunities. Climate variability means that vegetation on the rangelands does not grow all at once over large regions. Instead, it grows distributed irregularly over time and space. At the plant level, nutrients are first stored and then used for reproduction. In this cycle, forage quality peaks in the grass only for a week or two. By starting these cycles of vegetation growth in different places at different times, climate variability triggers brief concentrations of nutrients sequentially. For mobile herds, this uneven pattern is what opens up a continuous sequence of grazing opportunities, resulting in a relatively stable access to nutrient-picking forage over time. In other words, thanks to climate variability and mobility, pastoralists can keep their animals feeding on nutrient-picking forage for much longer than it would be possible in any one location they visit, so for months rather than days. On the other hand, development policies and interventions have been aimed at transforming pastoralism on the basis of a model that assumes stability and frames variability as an obstacle. This is still happening. As a consequence, today, pastoralism exists along a spectrum. While some systems continue to operate largely according to their agroecological nature, others have been more deeply affected, especially by the introduction of obstacles to mobility. For example, rangeland fragmentation, fixed infrastructure and services that keep people in settlements, restricted borders, insecurity, weakened customary institutions, and of course, policies of sedentarizations that peaked in the 50s and 60s, but then they are coming back now and they continue. When the functional relationship between mobility and climate variability is undermined, pastoralists lose the very strategy that makes their systems productive, sustainable, and resilient. Pastoralists are often portrayed as helpless victims of climate change. Logically, if we assume that climate variability is a problem, then more variability means a bigger problem. Some say too big a problem. But for pastoralism, climate variability is their ecological niche. Therefore, a sound logic needs to start from this different premise. Framing climate change as a total rupture then frames pastoralists' adaptive capacity as irrelevant, just when it is most needed. So climate-related risk is shifting for pastoralists too, as for us all, of course. But pastoralism is not disoriented by climate change in the same way as the agricultural systems that depend on fixed calendars and assumptions of stability. When pastoralists do suffer from the biophysical manifestations of climate change, the first question we need to ask is not how to introduce stability, but what is getting in the way of the functional relationship between pastoralism and variability. Investing in this functional relationship is smart climate policy. It supports biodiversity, soil health, carbon cycling, and resilience, as we have heard. One of the biggest misunderstandings in climate policy today is the idea that all greenhouse gas emissions from human societies are the same, regardless of their ecological context and their roles within the Earth system. Yet what makes these emissions significant in the face of climate change is precisely their context. It is the relationship between carbon cycles, Earth systems, and the social world we build around them. So this relationship is fundamentally different in the case of methane emissions from pastoral livestock than in the case of emissions produced by burning fossil fuels. Treating them as commensurable, as in all cases of offsetting schemes, for example, collapses the crucial distinction between a living cycle and a one-way geological displacement. Climate finance for our future should support pastoralists directly, not as offset providers, but for their ability to practice pastoralism, because pastoralism already sustains resilient and ecologically integrated systems. This means supporting mobility, protecting land rights, and strengthening customary institutions. It also means investing in pastoralist women and youth, recognizing them as right holders and key actors in the processes that make pastoralism both productive and sustainable. So I would like to end with one simple message, and that is the pastoralism, in many ways, is already a system for the future. In a world of increasing climate uncertainty, we need food systems that are at home with climate variability. Indeed, systems organized around using climate variability, and pastoralism offers exactly that. That is why the issue is not whether pastoralists can adapt to climate change or not. If any food system can, pastoralists certainly can. The issue that feels more urgent to me today is whether climate policy can adapt to recognize the present and future value of rangeland pastoralist systems. Promoting new agroecological practices is important, but even more important is recognizing and supporting agroecological practices that are already there, practices that already exist, and certainly one of them is pastoralism. Thanks.
Dr. Krätli, thank you so much for that presentation, advocating on behalf of pastoralism as an adaptive climate solution and highlighting the role of mobility as in fact an essential asset. So thank you. We hear you and we appreciate it. I just also want to remind our listeners or participants that today is Earth Day, and so we chose this event to be today to acknowledge Earth Day, and also April is sort of the climate theme month within the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists.